Hi everybody, I'm Jim Skelly and this is the Global Conversation. It's the second of our mini lectures for the spring of 2011 and it's been a beautiful day here in Derry, a beautiful sunny day. This part of the world it's now getting very dark and it's getting very cold. I hope it's not too cold where you are. Couple of things I want to talk to you about this week. One, we now have, I think, close to 60 students enrolled in the class. And what we would like to do is get you to update your profiles if you haven't done so already. One of the things that I really would appreciate you doing is putting a photograph of yourself. We'd all love to see your faces, if that's at all possible, and fill in any other information as best you can. We're going to have you ask you to interview another person in the class who's not proximate to you at some time in the near future. So it'd be good if they had something to start with, if you know what I mean. The other thing I'd like to talk to you about is an exercise that we've just posted. It's at the top of the course webpage. And let me just tell you a little bit about it. What we've asked you to do is to take a look. This is already, we're starting to get into topic 3, looking at our stuff, and some of you may already be looking at ourselves and the issue of consumerism. But we've created an exercise that we hope will bring some of the issues in this class home to you. One of them, the exercise is called, Where Does My Stuff Come From? So what I'd like you to do, if at all possible, is click on that, and you'll see some simple directions. And what I say there is, in order to get a sense of globalization, each student should post a list of where 20 or more items of their stuff originates. For example, 10 items of clothing, 5 personal care items, and 5 other items such as electronics, for example. I'd like you to complete this by Friday the 4th of February. All you need to do is to click on Reply at the bottom of the most recent post. I think you'll find it fascinating. I was amazed myself when I said, well, I sort of know that my stuff comes from everywhere, but, T-shirts from Honduras and other places in Central America, undershorts from Thailand, shirts from Cambodia, trousers from Egypt, things like that. I even have a sport jacket from Macedonia and an overcoat from Ukraine. I think you'll get a sense of globalization in this way. And furthermore, I think it will tie in to issues related to our economy. We're going to do the same thing with food in the near future and go into depth about some of these issues a little bit more. But I'd like you to really get on that exercise. I think it's a good way for you to start communicating with other people. I think other people will find your posts in this regard quite interesting. So please try to do that in the next couple of days. I think you'll really find it interesting to see exactly where all of your stuff comes from. Feel free to do as much of it. Do at least 20 items, but if you want to do more, go ahead. It'd be very interesting to see somebody do an entire inventory of their stuff. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is a couple of issues that I've been noting from the newspapers this week that tie in with the issues that we're dealing with under topic 3. And that is, I hope you looked at the story of stuff and also look at the world's biggest garbage dump, plastic in the ocean. I'm going to say a little bit more about that. And also the electronic wasteland. Where does your electronic waste go? When you throw away an old computer or something, what happens to it? Well, you won't be happy to hear what happens to it. There are 3 readings this week as well that I'm hoping, if you're actually working on topic 3, this is where you should be reading. One of the most important is an article that we've posted called America Spent After Consumerism. It's by the sociologist Etzioni. And again, what Etzioni is doing is taking a contextual approach to the issues. You will remember that I mention this all the time. A contextual approach, looking at social structure, etc. So do take a look at that article, and you'll find it very useful, especially when you're writing midterm essays. If you're into the next week, don't miss the videos, The Century of the Self. We only post part 1, but I think you will find the other 2, which are over on the sidebar on the left, part 2 and part 3 and part 4. So it's 4 hours total, which we think is a bit much, but if you're interested in consumerism, you will find this terribly, terribly interesting. A couple of other articles I want to point your attention to. One is about the Hughes fish fight, which is trying in the UK and to a certain extent elsewhere. We're trying to get people to eat fish that are sustainable, right? Fish stocks are being exacerbated. But the problem is that even eating, and what's happening is that people are eating now because of this fish fight, this campaign, which has about 600,000 people have already signed up for it. What's happening is that people are, talking. The big supermarkets are labeling this is sustainably sourced, etc., etc. Right? But the problem is the total amount of fish that's being consumed. People in the United Kingdom, each person, on average, consumes about 40 to 45 pounds of fish each year. Americans tend to eat less than 20 pounds. But the Spanish eat twice as much as the Brits do. So you're talking about close to 100 pounds of fish each year. And the sources, we just can't keep it up. 3/4 of fish stocks within the European Union are overexploited and produce much less than they used to, or what is possible if they were looked after in a sustainable manner. So that's going to become a big issue, as is food more generally. One of the other articles that I will send you a link to is I don't know if many of you know about this. I only became aware of it last year, but it's essentially countries and companies leasing land in Africa to produce food, right? And this is an article by Madeline Bunting, and part of what she talks about here is the fact that they're exporting rice from Ethiopia to Saudi Arabia. And can that be justified at the same time as the World Food Program has to send food to Ethiopia to feed 5 million people there who aren't getting enough? Well, and why is Saudi Arabia doing that? Well, the issue is Saudi Arabia's underground aquifers, historically filled with water, are starting to go dry. There's a similar phenomenon in the Midwest of the United States. The Ogallala Aquifer, people think it may disappear in another 25 years. And an awful lot of agricultural production in the Middle West of the United States depends on water from that aquifer. Now, one of the things that Bunting is drawing on here is a new book. The entire article, Bunting's article, is by a new book by Lester Brown. You may recall that Lester Brown is the author of Plan B 4.0, which is a required reading for this class. Brown's come out with a new book called World on the Edge. And there's going to be a lot of discussion about this because the issue is this going to really burst the larger bubble about how we're living on the planet? There's an interesting blog by a guy named Damian Carrington. And Carrington, quoting a lot from Lester Brown, says that we're only one bad harvest away from chaos, and that food has become the weak link in our civilization. That's a quote from Lester Brown. And if you think back to what happened on Easter Island, right, if you've been reading Jared Diamond's book, Diamond talks about the fact that Easter Island, essentially collapsed because there was no more food. People got to the point on Easter Island where they started eating each other. And in my opinion, people don't look that tasty to me. I hope that we don't come to that. I doubt that we will, but it could be really bad because there's becoming a kind of perfect storm. Brown and Carrington go on to say there are 175 million people in China and 130 million people in India who live on food grown from unsustainable water supplies. Half the world lives in countries where the water table is falling. Brown thinks that one seriously bad harvest could provide the pin that bursts the bubble. And part of that could come about from some of the extreme weather that's projected to increase with global warming. Last summer, as you may know, the harvest of grain in Russia was devastated because of the extreme weather that they faced, extreme heat, etc. And that the Russians lost 40% of the 100 million tons were lost to drought and wildfires. And so, if Brown is right, as Carrington points out, there could be an upside to all this. And the upside could be that people generally are not directly concerned with rising CO2 levels, right? The major factor in global warming. You can't see it. It's very abstract, right? But people understand rising food prices. And those prices are among the most politically sensitive issues. You're seeing some of this informing the protests in the Middle East right now. So you might take a look at all that. I think it's going to be a very, very interesting few months. We're talking about issues that are going to be mirrored in the newspapers and on television, etc., in the next few months as well. So please do the exercise. Where does my stuff come from? Drop me a note if you have any concerns, and I'll look forward to talking with you soon. All the best.